Welcome, Spartans, to Mission Debrief. We're playing every mission in the mainline Halo video game series in chronological order, discussing our experiences and sprinkling in a little lore along the way. If you'd like to play along and have your thoughts read on the show, email us at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. We'll be kicking off our coverage of Halo 5 with the Osiris mission
crazy
on the next episode. If you like what you hear and you want to support the show, visit Podcast Evolved on Patreon. This episode, we're recapping Halo 4 Spartan Ops and discussing its place in the pantheon of Halo stories. I'm your host, Colin Perkins, alongside David Arnold.
Hello, everybody.
And Krysta Brown.
Is it finally over?
You're free, Krysta. You're free.
God. I don't have to play Spartan Ops.
The monotony. It's done. She starts crying.
I just break down like it took 50 hours.
It's not that bad.
It was that bad.
All right, so I'm just going to do a quick overview. Normally I do an overview of all of the games, but I'm just going to do an overview of Halo 4 and then Halo 4 Spartan Ops. So we'll just kind of do a quick recap of those. I guess it's one game, but it's two different stories. So after 4.5 years of floating in deep space, a potentially rampant Cortana woke Master Chief when nearing a Forerunner shield world named Requiem. With a zealot Covenant sect and the newly discovered Prometheans breathing down their necks, the duo got tricked into releasing the Didact while trying to contact the UNSC supercarrier Infinity. The Didact escaped Requiem and used the Composer to start digitizing humans on Earth to take vengeance on his old foes and reclaim the mantle of responsibility. Cortana sacrificed herself to help John 117 defeat the Didact, destroy the Composer, and return home. That was on July 21st, 2557 to July 25th, 2557. Now in Spartan Ops, the UNSC Infinity heads back to explore Requiem 6 months after the composing event at New Phoenix. Jul and Dama's his covenant, are spread throughout the SHIELD world and searching for Forerunner secrets. Fireteam Majestic and Crimson, among others, are deployed to claim the ancient technology for humans. However, it's Dr. Catherine Halsey's cunning that enables her to make a loose alliance with Jul and uncover the librarian's best-kept secret, the Janus Key. The key is split in half and separated between the two factions, while Requiem is sent to its fiery doom. This was in February of 2558, so we're way in the future right now. I wanted to get just overall thoughts. So we kind of covered off on our gameplay gripes in the first episode of our coverage of Spartan Ops. So I feel like we got most of that off our chest. We may nudge it here and there, but let's just talk about the story as a whole. David, how did you feel the Spartan Ops story was told? Did it do enough to capture your interest? Did it move the Halo universe forward as it was meant to be? What are kind of your thoughts there?
I like it. It's unusually told in terms of I still feel it's quite jarring between the missions you play and the cutscenes at the end. And maybe I know that just each one is like sandwiched with like a really cool cutscene that's like they're all kind of good. You know what I mean? They've got interesting set pieces and the character development in them is really good. I've never really liked anything story-wise that happened in most of the missions as you played through. The invasion's kind of like my favorite. So in terms of like how the story is taught and push it forward, it is and it does work because it kind of makes sense that like after the big event of the game that like in the downtime you would go back to these places that are such rich in like technology, especially when you know like what humanity is doing on other parts of the galaxy. They're on Onyx, they're doing things, they're going back to like Halo rings and stuff, you know what I mean? They're doing research. Makes totally sense why you go back to a shield world, especially when you've got the Infinity. You have such a massive mobile base essentially for performing Spartan Ops and whatnot and military operations.
Right.
So it's
aptly
cool.
Named.
It makes total sense. I liked that it's a side mission. Do you know what I mean? It's a total side story that propels the overall story a little bit forward. And
I would say it's more than a side mission because it's bringing the story towards Halo 5, right? Like this story kind of has to be told in a degree.
Bit, yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. Especially because, like, where 5 pretty much picks off where the loose ends of this and, to a lesser extent, Halo Escalations.
Yeah. Krysta, anything to expand on there?
Can you get PTSD from a video game? Oh, sorry, I was using Google. The story's really good.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it?
I do like the story. I love the cutscenes. I love the characters they reintroduced into the series and, you know, how they're interacting with each other. Especially Halsey and stuff like that. We don't talk about the gameplay here.
Okay. Well, so just think about, you know, where Halo 4 left off. And we know, you know, if you're a listener, we're trying not to do spoilers, but we know where Halo 5 starts off. Like, they need to fill the gap a little bit, right? So something needs to happen. Like, thinking about how this story plays into it, this story more or less explains why Halsey is like with Jewel, right? Like, that's kind of
pretty
what
much.
This does. I mean, there's some other stuff that it tells, and we'll probably get into that maybe during our Halo 5 coverage.
Like, honestly,
that's the biggest impact.
This was a whole catalyst to just reintroduce Halsey into the series. Like, think about what you learn. You get a proper intro to Halsey. You learn who she is, you know, what her status is. She's a prisoner, how smart she is, and her connection to John. All throughout these cutscenes. This was to introduce Halsey so that, you know, eventually when Halsey kind of comes back and stuff happens, you have an emotional connection to her.
That's a good point because, you know, again, we kind of talk about like the Halo Bible, the playbook is, you know, 343 has an idea where they want to take the Halo universe. So they probably saw like, you know, Halsey really hasn't been part of the story outside of a little bit here and there. So we need to feature her quite a bit so that exactly what you said. So I think that's well said.
And she's a huge player in the extended universe.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. So who's the best character from Spartan Ops? Is it Halsey?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Hands down.
Okay.
If you're asking us who the best new character is, maybe Lasky? Maybe Roland. I mean, Lasky wasn't really new, and neither was Sarah. So maybe Roland. Roland's a great character.
Well, and that's in Halo. I mean, they're both in Halo 5, but they're fleshed out quite a bit more in Spartan Ops.
Yeah.
What about new characters for you, David?
I will probably say Roland, just in terms of like he has a good arc, I think, and he's kind of important in what happens in Halo 5 and presumably Infinity. I wanted to say Jewel, but then most of his most interesting things are not in this game.
Yeah.
Actually happens before it, so...
Sure. In the extended lore.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, I mean, he is one of the most interesting characters in this, but like his part isn't very interesting, and he's pretty one-dimensional. And he comes across as kind of... Okay, he's sly and he's smart, but he's a little bit gullible at the same time. Like, he's totally kind of blind to what the thing that he thinks is right in front of him that he wants, and that this is it, regardless of what it actually is. And we kind of know from the books and stuff that he's smarter than that. So, yeah, I guess.
So
Roland is probably my same answer.
Mine is Palmer, and I'm one of the few supporters in our team. I hear you, Aaron. Aaron's giving me a fist pump, like, yeah.
I don't mind Palmer.
But she does shine, and this is kind of her story, and there are a couple other stories to be told that feature Palmer. I think, you know, thinking back to what 343 is trying to do with like bringing forward new characters and things like that. You know, we talked about how Bungie killed off a lot of the characters in the past, and they needed a new pool of people to feature in the games, and Palmer was one of the characters that they came up with, and I think that they did a good job of giving her some grit and making her feel, I don't know, she feels like a veteran, and she feels like she has some authority. And I know, David, you said like she kind of falls to the background when there are other characters that are, I guess, more authoritative in scenes.
More senior. Yeah.
Yeah, but she, I think she fills her role as the Spartan commander when she's in charge of her Spartans. She's in charge, and I really like how they portrayed her from that standpoint. What do you guys think about the Covenant? You talked a little bit about Jewel, David. How did they like their art? Like, we're used to now. We played Halo 4, so we're used to them not speaking English anymore. That's fine, but they're very brutey. They're still very zealots, but what do you think about how they're portrayed in Spartan Ops versus how they're portrayed in other games, David?
Our Spartan Ops compared to other games. See, I like the art design. I like the sect. I guess they do have that kind of zealotry about them in terms of like how they are venerating the Forerunner artifacts that you see around, and even like how they deal to the characters and some of the brief kind of dialogue you get of some of the Sangheili in it. Other than that, I mean, they're not amazing. The missions that they're in are kind of, I guess it's just the nature of the mode we're talking about. Like it didn't feel like it was built to tell stories in many kind of ways. So like we only have two characters in the Covenant. You have Jewel and Gek,
right?
And that's it. And Gek only exists in the cutscenes. Well, same as Jewel, but like Gek is, I don't even think Gek is even in the books. He's not. I looked this up. He's only in Spartan Ops. And maybe he would have been an interesting kind of sub boss to have.
I thought he's in extended lore. I thought.
I didn't think so. I thought I looked this up.
No, I'm pretty sure he's featured elsewhere. But anyway.
Damn it! I'm gonna have to look that up now.
Okay.
Colin, thanks very much.
Well, then
there's agreed with it, and then we could have been wrong for all time.
There's Parg Vol, who was a little kind of mini boss guy that was featured. But yeah, those are really the only named Covenant that are featured.
Gek. Oh, I think you're right. He's got like a nice.
He's featured in some books and stuff.
Where is he?
Krysta, any other thoughts while he's looking that up? Covenant, like how the Covenant are. I mean, they're the big bad again, but they're also supported by the Prometheans in this story.
Yeah, I mean, and like.
Oh, yeah, he's in Smoke and Shadow.
Oh, is he?
And Renegades. I think he seems to be mentioned in Renegades. I'm looking at all these quotes.
But, Sangheili are an interesting race, and I think that these ones in particular weren't very interesting. They were just very religious zealots and, just kind of crazy aliens. Mm-hmm. I think later in the series and through the books, you kind of see more character out of Sangheili in general, and especially Jewel Mandama, but they were just kind of sub-characters in this, where it mainly focused on human characters and human interactions, and the elites were just there to be an antagonist in the series.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Gek there?
Yeah, I kind of forgot he was pretty much tied in. Kelly Gay tied him in with her books. Because he was sent out pretty much to get weapons for Jewel and for the Covenant, the Didax hand. So anyway, that's I guess he has been around, but
I was right.
That's all we really had.
You're welcome, listeners.
Whatever, Colin.
Fight.
Okay, here's an interesting question. What do you guys think about the fucking artifact? Why didn't they? First of all, why didn't they name it? They just called it the artifact throughout the entire thing, and plus there was more than one. Like, I don't know. It was bizarre. It was very mysterious and interesting to me right away, but they just didn't.
It's literally just a story device. That's all it is. The real artifact in this whole series is the Janus key.
Sure. Yeah.
This is just a plot device so that they have to look for it, and then people get sucked in, and it's literally just plot device. This thing is gonna do some good things and some bad things, and it's gonna keep Infinity on Requiem, and
it seems to be essentially a mobile access to a portal network that you can beam people between two locations. And you can kind of move it around and set it up.
And you don't have to be on Requiem for that to happen, maybe?
Clearly not if it was working on an Infinity.
Yeah.
There may be a range on it. There might actually be, due to the fact that there's a slip space anchor that kind of kicks in I'm not sure if that's its function, as opposed to that's just maybe a side effect of what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I can't remember exactly. I think when Jewel sent the Requiem towards the sun that activated and locked them down. I want to say it was around then.
Yeah. Okay.
That it wasn't always doing that because Infinity was moving in a lot of the cutscenes. It was only really near the end, I think, where it actually got locked down, and Halsey confirmed it. That's what it was. Or I think Jewel did it to lock Infinity to Requiem to actually send Requiem in, so he must have known what he was doing. Anyway, that's the artifact. It's
I wish they would have named it.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Give it a name.
Just something.
It's a little weird, but yeah, I mean, again, it's a cool thing. It's cool technology, but they don't. I don't know. It might show up in Escalation.
Technically, the Infinity still has one.
No, they I looked for it at the end of the cutscene when Infinity flies away and Requiem goes into the sun. You see a little rectangle flying backwards towards it.
Oh, they just dump it.
They just dump it. Yeah,
like,
or maybe
bye.
maybe they have to dump it because it is tied to the other two.
I would say
Something
so.
like
I mean,
that.
they deactivated it, but it's only ever caused them trouble. So I'd say it has no
Throw
purpose.
it in the sun.
Yeah.
And then there was the Didax GIF, and that was that was more or less just a Promethean soul or something like that. That was just like a database, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much just it had something to do with because the memories were in there, right? Like the memories of the people from New Phoenix.
It's a composed human is pretty much inside.
Is it one or is it all of them? Is it like
I think it's
a
one.
network?
Because, well, if they called it the Promethean soul, and I know the Prometheans are essentially individuals. So, like, I'm assuming it's one because when she opens it, like a figure, almost like a hologram of an AI human-shaped body, appears for a few seconds and disappears. So I assumed it was one, a singular.
When we talk about the Prometheans earlier, you know how they always dissipate, right? And they flake away, they get snapped. Do you guys remember how this stuck around? Like, for some reason, this one didn't get. I don't know.
They're called purged.
Yeah.
That beam of light. That's what Cortana says at the start, that it's a data purge. Why it doesn't? Maybe because of the environment it was in. Maybe they cut it. Maybe it needed to be on Requiem to be purged.
Cut it
I'm
out
not sure.
Like that. Yeah. Like,
maybe it's disconnected from the network, for lack of a better term. Whatever way that works.
They found it on Requiem, though, I think.
Oh,
so,
they did, but like Jewel wanted them to have it. It was kind of a bait and switch.
Yeah.
I think he gave. So
anyway, there might be a little explanation somewhere, like Halopedia or something like that. But anyway, it was interesting tech. But again, it was, it could have been kind of anything, in that role. But they did. I mean, I think they made it interesting, especially early on. You're like, what is this thing? But
they did make it interesting in terms of like tying it in to the Phoenix, giving Thorn's motivation. Obviously, there was a build up for Thorn, which we said before, of his character, and obviously that was a reveal to like everyone else who wasn't the gamer and Lasky or Palmer in terms of like what Prometheans actually are.
True.
And definitely with the thought that like these are recently composed humans that you're fighting.
Yeah.
And that's obviously difficult for like Spartans to think about, or humanity, I guess. Those guys.
There is some interesting things in Escalation about composed humans and stuff like that. So definitely read that. Anyway, we talked about it's not fair to compare the gameplay just because it's monotonous. But what about this story that's told here? I think we've talked about this in some other episodes. Like, is this story better than Halo CE's story? Is it better than Halo 2's story? Is it better?
No,
Like, can we compare that, or is it like more comparable to like an ODST story?
It's definitely more of an ODST story, I'd say. Like,
but
it doesn't have the Master Chief
better
in it. Like,
yeah.
But that's kind of what I like about it. I think it's a well-told story about these side characters, and it develops them well.
Oh no, I like it. It's just like it's hard to compare like games with surrounding the Master Chief to games not surrounding him.
Yeah, like I wouldn't call it better than anything else. Like, is it better than the Halo War stories?
Debatable.
Maybe, depending on how you feel about them. Yeah.
So does this fall in the bucket of extended lore? Like, is it more or less like one of the stories that's told, like a short story that's told in Tales from
comic book
Space or
series.
something?
It's a bit more than that because the time period is actually, I mean, they're there a good while, and there's pretty important characters in there. But I guess Halo's not afraid to put important characters into short stories and stuff. Yeah. It's definitely side stuff. Like I find it's the lowest of all the campaigns, if you want to really say, and that's just because I guess maybe people might argue Halo CE's one is maybe the simplest just because it's the oldest. That is very difficult. I think I might rate it fairly low, if not the lowest, compared just talking about Halo games
like
and
the
their
video
stories.
Game story, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care about Spartan Strike or Spartan, the other one.
Assault.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are Palmer stories on Infinity. Essentially, they're like war games, I think, aren't they? They're like
Palmer's featured in the first one, I think, Strike.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't care about those ones, so I imagine it's better than those. And those are canon stories told in games.
Yeah. Okay, so then what do we think now? So we're not going to rank the games or anything like that. We're not at the end of the show anyway, but I wanted to at least talk about what do you think of the overall Halo 4 package when compared to, at least from the things that we're interested in. There's multiplayer and all that stuff in all the games. Obviously that's a big component, but we're driven by the story and the lore and whatnot. So what do you think about the package of Halo 4 when you compare it to, I mean, a bigger package is probably like Halo 2. So comparing Halo 4 to Halo 2, and then probably Halo 3 would be another comparison point. What do you think about everything that you get in Halo 4 when you're comparing to those others? Krysta, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, like, the Master Chief story in Halo 4 is very different than the other Halos. It's not, the stakes aren't as big, they're not galaxy-wide. It's more of an emotional story between two characters, which I really like. And then you go to Spartan Ops, which is one of the only times we've actually really seen the aftermath of a big numbered Halo event. Which is interesting, and it's interesting how they, like, the Infinity wasn't a big player in Master Chief's story. It was much more about Cortana and Master Chief themselves. And the Didact kind of is in there as well, but it's nice for them to introduce something so interesting and a bunch of characters that, like, the new Spartan class, Lasky, all the stuff that's happening, and then letting you see more of that in the game that you actually saw them in first. Sure. Like, this isn't a short story, this isn't a comic. It's very nice to, like, the gameplay isn't great. We've said that a million times, but it's nice to be able to sit down and watch and see what the aftermath of everything is. Like, what happened right after New Phoenix? How do people think? How do people feel about that? What's going to happen to Requiem? We know there's still Covenant around there. What are they up to? What's up with the librarian? Is she still there? We've seen her for like 5 minutes and now she's gone. So I think it's a really great story, and I think it ties into Halo 4 really well, and it just kind of deals with some of the stuff that happened in Halo 4.
It's interesting that when you think about the original, the Bungie Halos, you're more or less led to believe, if you're just playing the games, that you're the last super soldier. And in Halo 4, and you will see in Halo 5, you see that you're a cog. I mean, you're like a big cog as Master Chief, but you're a component of the larger, Spartan system, and there's more than just Chief. And we talked about what 343, the story that they wanted to tell in Halo 4, and kind of where they're taking the universe, after they got the mantle, the Halo mantle, to tell the story. They are telling about the Forerunners. They've focused on that backstory, or that kind of that secret underlying layer that was left by Bungie. But then they're also telling, hey, there's more to it. Let's bring forward all the other Spartan 2s, and like let's bring forward the fact that there's all these other fire teams that are out there. There's just lots more to the universe, and I guess that's just part of what they wanted to do as they were formed, and they want to bring the Halo business forward and expand it so much. But you feel like Master Chief, he's still the main character, but he's not. I don't know. Is he still dead center? I guess that's maybe where I'm getting to. He's he's the main hero, but he's not the complete center of the universe as he felt in Bungie. Does that make sense at all, David?
Yeah, because clearly 343 were trying to get away from Chief as being their one cash cow.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes sense with everything we know from Halo 5 and the marketing and just the fact that pretty much the actor whose name I'm blanking on right now, who plays Locke, came out and said, "Oh, I'm the main character of Halo 5."
Oh,
People
yeah.
lost their shit.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Coulter.
Yep.
And then clearly you could see there was problems with the Halo 5 story, and we're not getting into that, but a bit of reworks. But yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you don't want this massive franchise that is a big cash cow for Microsoft relying on one character, even though it kind of does.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand what they would want to move away from that. I don't like how they've tried to do it to date. And obviously with the backlash, we know that they are centering on Chief in the going forward.
Mm-hmm.
That may or may not hold the series back. I'm not sure yet. I mean, it's impossible to tell.
Yeah.
But in the context of what we have here, I don't mind video games and stories that don't center Chief. But yeah, I guess, they can work.
So what do you think about should future games? And again, we're 5 exists. So as we're recording, 5 exists. Infinite does not exist. But should 343 do something like this again, where they have a campaign that that's the game, and then there's the multiplayer, that's the game, and then separately you can also think maybe this was DLC. Should they do more story stuff for nerds like us in a similar manner like Spartan Ops? Granted,
100%, because that's where you get to experiment.
And they've already
And that's where you get
they've
to
already kind of introduced this story DLC in Halo Wars 2. We got 2 very meaty story DLCs. It's the first one we've actually ever gotten a paid DLC in a Halo game. So it feels like they were kind of gauging to see if people are actually going to be interested in story DLC, and then hopefully going forward we get some, because we finished the game and we want more. I mean, that's usually how it works when we play Halo games.
But, and you're always up against, from a video game standpoint, like development time and, technology advances to a certain level, things like that. This is a little bit of a tangent, but do you think a Halo ever becomes just like kind of similar to Destiny, maybe, where they here's the base game and then they keep doing expansions beyond that? Does Halo ever become something like that? Or is it...
Well, that's the rumor for Infinity.
Mm-hmm.
Infinity.
That it's a service type game, and you can see why you might do it, because that's the most popular and most lucrative type of games out right now, are the ones that are games of service that can continuously update and modify. And if Halo Infinite is just the Halo game that is constantly updated, that's fine, depending on what the updates are and how that game plays. And obviously they're moving away from numbered games as well, so that's quite telling. But they've also pretty much told us, in the first trailer we see Master Chief, and that the story is centered on Chief, which is fine. Doesn't mean we can't get story or DLC that isn't. They kind of probably have to, if they're still going down the road that they want to develop for their characters.
Well, and the thing about a Halo game is, the campaign needs to be centered around Chief, but everything after the campaign doesn't need to be centered around Chief. We have our Chief story, we have our overarching Chief story, he sets something up, and then it could be like Destiny, where you're a Guardian, you just kind of do all of the raids and strikes and stuff like that. Because, if you think about Destiny, the campaign is so detached from what you do after the campaign. You could easily tell a completely different story that leads into, you getting free roam of everything and then expanding from there.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think they can tell their main story and then either go back and fill in some of the gaps, or just maybe similar to Spartan Ops, where the time is in the future, but you're doing things that aren't, to save the universe. You're doing things to maybe set up the saving of the universe, things like that.
And we already know that Halo Infinite's going to be set on Zeta Halo, which is Installation 07, which is the mysterious installation. So, the campaign could have something to do with, discovering the installation, fighting the big thing on the installation, and then kind of like Spartan Ops, our story our story is holding the installation, dealing with whatever's left on it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Very cool. That's good. And that's, I think, a lot of that conversation. I'm glad we're having this conversation here, but a lot of that conversation will be had on Podcast Evolved, as leading up to Infinite and, speculation. And I'm sure, there'll be marketing and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out, leading up to that. But so we're dating ourselves a little bit too much. But what about? So let's go back to this story and then where it leaves us. Let's just talk about where we are in the universe now and some of the threads that are left leading into Halo 5, because that's going to be the next episode that we'll have for you. I like the kind of the threads, like Halsey getting shot and then Jewel running off with her and the Janus key. Like, this is all really interesting stuff leading up into Halo 5. Does this get you excited, David, to get back into Halo 5 from like kind of where they've left it?
Yeah, because the story beats got me where like when they're assassinating Halsey, I was like, hell no, don't you go assassinate Nadia. So like to see like her get shot, her get to pass out, you don't know what the damage is. That's cool. And definitely I felt it, and so like building the characters up and the motivations going into Halo 5 definitely. Sorry, what was the original question?
Just kind of the threads, the story threads that
leading to Halo
left.
5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because where it kind of leads us is like Jewel and Halsey are like two kind of complete opposites, but they're also incredibly similar.
They're also
which is kind
salty.
of fascinating. So yeah, and they're salty as fuck. So like Halsey is one of the most incredibly dangerous humans in the kind of Halo universe. So giving her to like your enemy, and like then giving her motivation to hate you, is a dangerous combination, especially because Jewel seems very resourceful and he has a plan. Do you know what I mean? And he is way more intelligent than I suppose he's really given credit for, just from the cutscenes,
Yeah.
The threads then leading from like Infinity, it does lead off interestingly where like you have Glassman, who just seems kind of useless, and we've never really seen from him again, so that's probably why his character didn't really go anywhere. But obviously you needed a scientist type character, so
he's
like,
capable, but he's no Halsey.
Yeah, I mean Halsey shits all over him, and he pretty much just gets a bad rap.
He's B team.
As opposed to like Anders, who is a way more adept and more interesting scientist. Is the one from Halo Wars, so she's great. And then okay, yeah, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to know because I know where we are.
All right.
We can talk about that later in future episodes. Where Infinity is quite good because like the crew of Infinity you're kind of getting introduced to, and you felt like they were trying to build up characters with Majestic and with Palmer and Lasky. They're probably the most interesting two characters because they're only really two characters that matter on Infinity, and Roland, I suppose, of course. So those three have great dynamics. Lasky's kind of he seems a bit maybe plain. Do you know what I mean? In terms of like, but in the books and the story, he's chosen very specifically for his shrewdness and stuff like that. And there's more behind him that isn't really shown here. And he essentially was selected by Oni for this mission. Do you know what I mean? He was groomed into that position. But I don't know. Yeah, it's good. I like it. I liked where it was going. Obviously, Halo 5 did something completely different, but like it was interesting where the universe led off, and we'll talk later on where like the other media that picked up those threads and kind of pushed them forward again.
Krysta, anything to add from that standpoint?
I mean, something you also failed to mention was just the Master Chief aspect of all of this. Master Chief's really broken. He's gonna recover, but we don't really know how. He has zero ways to handle any kind of emotions he has. So we have a middle-aged, emotionally unstable super soldier, and we have no idea what he's doing. We get one comic in Escalation that kind of reintroduces him into the series, and then just kind of like, boom, he's off doing something else now. So. And then, of course, Cortana. I mean, we have no idea. I mean, she's dead at this point, so it's like, Is there going to be a clone of Cortana? Is he finally going to end up with another AI? Is Master Chief even going to accept another AI?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that aspect is really interesting just because at this point in the series, it's just, what is Master Chief going to do next?
Yeah,
where does he have to go?
Well, to this point, it's always been Chief and Cortana. I mean, outside of Reach, but in the Chief games, it's been Chief and Cortana together. So now that she's gone... and that's, I mean, I feel like they hammered that home pretty well in Halo 4. They touched on it a smidge in Spartan Ops. And, leading up to Halo 5, they'll touch on it more. But him without Cortana, he's been with her for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
Like, it's a whole different ball game for I mean, granted, he's been asleep for like 4 years for that, but...
But at the same time, I mean, we only know Chief with Cortana, and Chief isn't much of a
they haven't been together for 4 years, though,
Yeah.
have they? Because didn't they
yeah.
just get introduced in C? Or no, they were
Reach.
introduced before
No,
C.
they were in Reach.
Reach-ish time.
Yeah, but Reach-ish time. Oh, I guess, because they tested together.
The boot
didn't
camp
they?
Yeah.
story. Yeah, they did stuff together.
Okay, that's right. So they have been together quite a while, even if, he was sleeping for half of it.
Yeah. But at this point, like, us as a character, or us as a, us as consuming this media doesn't really know who Master Chief is without Cortana.
Right.
The only time we've ever seen Chief without Cortana was in Halo: The Fall of Reach, and that was when he was studying to be a Spartan anyway. He was a completely different person at that point. Like, before Spartan Chief and after Spartan Chief are two completely different people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we don't know...
Totally agree.
We don't know who 117 is without Cortana. So at this point, it's just like, Spartan Ops didn't really give us anything with that, which is completely fine because it doesn't need to touch on that.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, it's just a big question mark. It's just, what the hell is this guy gonna do next?
Yeah.
He's
But
kind
I
of a
think-
loose cannon wild card.
Cortana, this is probably obvious, but having Cortana integrated into who he is, like if Cortana wasn't there in the story, Chief would have been somebody different, right? Like, she's helped make him who he is, who we know Chief is up until this point. So now that she's not there, is it, what do we expect? What can we...
Also,
Well, I felt like
go ahead.
most of that growth was in Halo 4, where she was asking him questions that weren't mission related, where she was asking him, where she was faced with her own mortality, and that really troubled him. So I felt like
character growth,
this
I
is
think.
where you see
but
it.
when you're thinking about, like, let's think about how she nudged him in Halo CE in certain ways, and she just their kind of ongoing dialogue, and how he more or less became to rely and trust on her I don't know, just
And
expertise or wisdom, right?
In general, like, Chief and Cortana are pretty much this one character. Chief is the physicality of the character, and Cortana's the voice and the mind of the character. Chief himself, like, before Halo 4, doesn't really do that much by himself. It's mostly Cortana talking, Cortana telling you what to do, Cortana introducing you to everything, and then Chief going out and going guns blazing and doing, funny quips.
Well, in the games anyway, it portrays him like
Yeah.
that, but in the books,
In the books,
obviously,
it's
he's
different.
done things for years. Yeah.
Yeah, and she, I'm just thinking about, she's in and out of his head in Halo 2. And he's without her for a while until we finally find her in Halo 3. So there are some points of separation, but yeah, I mean, they're kind of they're together, right? In my mind, it's Chief and Cortana. They're kind of one person together. That character she needs to be in his head for him to be Chief.
Which is interesting that, like, that's how Spartan 2s were designed. They were supposed to be integrated with AIs, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Chief was just kind of a test model for that.
And maybe this wasn't explored. Maybe this wasn't explored. I'm not recalling, but I don't think Halsey ever considered that there might be a relationship formed. Maybe that is somewhere. But
it might be in her
thinking of the
journal
whole
or
life
stuff.
life cycle. Yeah, it might be in there somewhere. Thinking of the life cycle, like, so Spartans are going to live forever, right? But they'll it's almost like have a new. This is a bad example. Well, it's a good example. It's like when you get a dog, right? The dog's going to live for 10-ish years, but you usually have, multiple dogs across your lifetime, or pet in general, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if she considered, hey, you're gonna have one AI for this amount of time, and then we're gonna give you another one. How does that affect the Spartans? It's interesting stuff to think about. All right, so let's talk about. We're not going to compare. I told you that already. We're not going to compare this to the other games because it's kind of one. We've already compared Halo 4 to the other games, where we rank them. But let's talk about the next episode is going to be Halo 5. So how do you get ready for Halo 5? There's actually a graphic, and I shared it with you guys in our private chat. But I don't think I've ever seen that. It outlines all of the resources. Like, if you're into the lore like us, it says, okay, here's all of the stuff that you should try to consume that helps lead into Halo 5. So there is, from like a audio visuals, what you can watch is there's Halo Nightfall that you can watch, and that talks about Locke. There is the Halo 2 anniversary cutscenes with Locke in them, and that's where he's talking with Arbiter, and we covered that in Halo 2. So that stuff will make more sense. Actually, that will folds directly into Halo 5 at some point. Then there's the Fall of Reach animated series, which I just started watching last night, and it's better than what I remember. So that's solid. And that talks about kind of Blue Team, like the origins of the Spartan program and Chief and Blue Team.
It's the first third of the
grew
book.
Up together. Of the comic, yeah.
Oh, no, of the book itself, like the Fall of Reach.
Oh,
it's like
sure,
the first
of
third.
The book too. Yeah. Because there's a comic series, Fall of Reach, as well.
There's a lot of Fall of Reach content out there. If you don't know what happened during the Fall of Reach, you gotta look a little harder, people.
Yeah.
You're not even playing Halo.
Yeah.
So then you can read Escalation, which will continue the story of Halsey and Palmer and Lasky and the Janus Key. It'll start to wrap some of that stuff up. Escalation also tells about Chief. There's I think it's issues 8, 9, and 10 talk about Chief, and there's some other interesting stuff in there with Didac. So read that. We'll go full spoilers in Halo 5. It also tells about Holly Tanaka, who you will meet in Halo 5. She's in issues 17 through 24. There is also Hunters in the Dark, which is a book, which you will be introduced to. What's Vale's first name again? I'm forgetting her first name.
I always just called her Vale.
Olympia. It's Olympia Vale.
Olympia.
So she's featured in Hunters in the Dark. Then we get to reacclimate ourselves with Buck and read Halo New Blood. There is a second one, but that's kind of after Halo 5.
It's like literally right after Halo 5.
Yeah. So New Blood talks about Buck because he is in Halo 5. And then there is Last Light, and that talks a little more about Blue Team. So I think Fred Kelly and Linda are all in Last Light.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. Some are more featured than others.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think Kelly has like one line or something in that.
Yeah, it's mostly Fred, honestly.
It's a lot of Fred. Yeah, it's a lot of Fred.
It's Fred and his new side chick.
Yeah, right.
The Halo love story.
There is also the podcast Hunt the Truth.
So good. If you haven't listened to that, you have to. It's really fantastic. It's some of the best audio storytelling I've heard in a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Highly recommended. It plays into the Halo 5 marketing campaign too, which that's the big controversy point here. Is the Halo 5, like what they were teasing in the marketing campaign, what they were kind of teasing in Hunt the Truth a little bit. Well, more than a little bit, a lot in Hunt the Truth, but it was.
They set expectations for the story that weren't actually what the story was.
Yeah, and so when, I want to go back and watch some of the commercials that they put out and read some of the marketing, and then play Halo 5 again, at least the first mission, and kind of see how that transition is, knowing what I know now. But so be wary of that marketing stuff. It's interesting, I guess, but it also, to your point, Krysta, it may send you down the wrong path. You may have
You'll go into the game with the wrong expectations for what the game is. So I mean, if you if somehow you've avoided all Halo 5 marketing and haven't touched the game at all, go into the game first, then watch the marketing and just be like, huh?
What the fuck?
What?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
I'll do it to Trent. I don't think Trent's played Halo 5. He'll be my guinea
nice.
pig.
You should. Cool. All right. So we have some community questions. Anything you guys want to add before we get there?
I think we're good.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So community question. I actually posted 2 on Facebook for some reason.
Awesome.
Wait,
why
why
don't
is
we
Facebook
do one
getting all
first?
the stuff?
We'll sandwich.
We'll sandwich
Krysta.
it. We'll start Facebook. Go ahead, David.
Colin Perkins created a poll, and I have one of the right ones this time. Admin September 23rd at 2 p.m. Who is the main character in Halo 4 Spartan Ops? Question for mission debrief. Halo 4 Spartan Ops recap. Got a few options in here and a couple of comments. So overwhelmingly, people said Lasky. A lot of votes in there for Lasky. Fireteam Crimson is second. Dr. Halsey is third.
Wait, Crimson is second?
Crimson is second.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But by very few, the votes are overwhelmingly Lasky, and then very small numbers of every single one after that.
Huh.
So like single digits. So Halsey, Majestic, Requiem, and Glassman. And then you have Palmer. Palmer should have been up there way higher, I think, more than Glassman. And then the rest of them are just have no votes.
Yeah.
Which is Thorn, Jewel, and Forerunner Tech. Which is weird because this was supposed to build up Thorn, but nobody cared.
Yeah.
Palmer has great moments in this, way more than I think Glassman shouldn't be there. But yeah, you can understand why it is Lasky, because it mostly takes place on most of the story that people are thinking of are those cutscenes, of which he is a prominent character throughout.
And he's the higher profile of from Halo 4 too, because he has a bigger role in that.
It's all based in and around Infinity, of which he is the captain of.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes kind of sense.
But he's not Captain Picard.
He sure isn't.
He's got
only
hair.
A young man. He also does. That's actually a good point. Patrick Jack says Lasky, because the story told in Forward Into Dawn is damn near brings me to tears every time. I love it. Plus, he's captain of the most badass ship in UNSC. That's the Forward Into Dawn really kind of built him up and made you feel like he should have been way more important.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of makes sense. People just seem to love Lasky. That's pretty good. I guess it should be Majestic, because that's the one. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. Maybe it shouldn't be. I don't know. Yep. Anyway, go ahead,
Okay.
Krista.
Colin Perkins, September 20th, 2019 at 9:28 a.m. Wow, you're an early riser, huh? Crimson is a bit lame. Name your own fire team. Question for mission debrief. Halo 4 Spartan Ops recap. So Matt says fire team Moonstrike. Min says fire team Rapture. Third says fire team Fire. Dezudo says fire team Pen Pineapple Apple Pen.
Just naming things in front of him.
No, it's a song. Yeah,
Is it?
look it up. It's funny.
No. I'm not
Pen
doing that.
Pineapple Apple Pen. Anyway, the almost as cool Colin says fire team McFire Team Face. Very good. Gay Robot says fire team Persephone to hell and back. Ian says fire team Prometheus. We're the captain now. Impulsive says fire team Fire Palindrome. He's just
nice.
He's just mentioning that's a palindrome. Very nice. Very nice.
Yep.
Shadow of Oni says fire team McNuggies. Redacted says fire team ISIS.
Oh no.
Sorry.
ISIS. Oof.
Matthew says fire team Warhammer.
Ooh.
UNSC Brexit.
Warhammer.
UNSC Brexit says fire team Krysta killed all my Marine teammates. Now I don't know what to do. It's a good one. And then finally, third says fire team Nova Crystallis, which is my new cult. So if you want to join the cult, it's my mixer cult. So now I have
Sounds
a fire
fun.
team.
Sounds weird.
Anyway, that's it. That's the end.
Back to David.
All right, got some good stuff in here. Got a lot of responses on Facebook. Well done, guys. I love you, people. We have Patrick says fire team erosion because death by Spartan is inevitable.
Oh,
That's
Oh,
pretty funny.
Fire Team Thanos.
James Goodsell, Charlie because they're the OG fire team. Look at this guy.
nice.
Jared, fire team Wolfpack.
Yeah.
Matthew, tough choice, either fire team Updog or fire team. Noah, fire team Cheese Grater. Lance, fire team Tidebreaker. Ooh.
I like that.
Brad says fire team here's my penis. There you go. Trenton, fire team Ligma. Oh, Trenton. Brian Yap says fire team Headhunters. That's pretty cool. Rasmus, fire team Zero Death because Spartans never die.
Oh shit.
John Connor, fire team Tundra. I like that. Brad also says fire team Who's Your Daddy. Fire team Better Than Palmer. There we go. I like that one. Fire team Discord sucks. All right, Brad. That one gets a like. Well done, Brad. And my man. Fire team Triggered. Fire team, I'm going to get fired from work for being on Facebook. This is all Brad, by the way.
Yep.
One after the other. Fire team, not my Shamrock Shake. All right, Brad. Don't get racist now. Fire team getting kicked out of Facebook group for too many comments. Fire team, this one is not going to get read. Fire team, oh, look at that, Brad. You lose.
It did get read.
Fire team Sarah Woman 7 because things are named after legends. Fire team Iron Mammoth. Fire team Shield of Thera. Fire team Krysta's Inner Thoughts.
Oh god.
Fire
Oh,
team's
boy.
Aries Lance. He's just going places. And finally, Randy. Fire team Brad because of how dedicated Brad is commenting on this post.
I have one.
Fire team I Need More Sleep
Oh.
from Brad. Fire team First Zeus. Fist of Zeus. Fire team Rolling Thunder. And finally, Fire team Light of Soul. I think that's kind of cool.
Light
Salt like
of
this.
Soul.
I have one.
Yeah.
Fire Team John Wick. Fire Team Keanu Reeves because they're breathtaking.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh yeah. There we go.
David, do you have any fun ones?
Fire team. Well, I like how they've moved from colors to like things. I suppose crimson's kind of a color.
Crimson's color, yeah.
Majestic. They're just verbs.
Fire Team Verbs.
Fire team verbs.
The nouns, fire team nouns.
No. I've read too many mental ones there now, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. I had Fire Team Inferno written down. I kind of like that.
Fire
Ooh.
Team
And then-
Potatoes.
And so I wrote down Fire Team Inferno, and then I went down the flame route, kind of like what Brad did, and I went Fire Team Volcano, Fire Team Explosion, and then
Ooh.
Fire Team
Volcano's cool.
Fire Team Charizard.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Fire Team Charizard.
Yeah, winner.
Fire Team Arceus because they're gods.
Oh.
Oh,
Very
yeah.
nice.
Pokemon references in our Halo.
Is that one of the Pokemon teams in Pokemon Go, isn't it? Did you select or something?
No,
Or
Arceus
fight
is the god Pokemon. Yeah,
Oh, is it?
he's just literal god. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What about Fire Team Rocket? That would work.
Ooh,
Pokemon.
Oh, that's really good.
they're
Oh, that's a winner
blasting
for
off
me.
again.
Fire Team Rocket, babe.
All right.
Hell yeah.
That will do it for our debriefing of Spartan Ops from Halo 4. In the next episode, we'll be covering the Osiris mission from Halo 5.
Woo!
Send us your thoughts at podcastevolved@gmail.com or drop us a tweet at podcastevolved on Twitter. You can also support the show by visiting Podcast Evolved on Patreon. Until next time, evolve.
Evolved.
Evolved.